Now on that same day when Jesus had appeared to Mary Magdalene, 2 disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him. Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at table with them, he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour, they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. This is the gospel of our Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. Happy Easter again. Again, right? Yeah. Is it ever going to end? Yes, it will. On this, the 3rd Sunday of Easter, we have another post-resurrection appearance by Jesus. This story from the Gospel of Luke is another story that's set on the day of Jesus' resurrection. It's funny to me that we hear the big resurrection story on Easter morning, and then maybe we forget that the rest of that day, Jesus kept busy meeting up with his various disciples in various ways. It's not like he rose from the dead and then went and took a nap. In today's story, 2 disciples are walking along to Emmaus, and they are discussing the weekend's events. To them, the events that we remember on Good Friday are still fresh in their minds. Jesus' crucifixion would have happened only 3 days before. As they walk and they talk, Jesus appears to them, but they don't recognize him. He asks what they're discussing, and they sadly recount Jesus' trial and crucifixion and death. And they talk about their hopes for Jesus too. They say, we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. In other words, we had hoped that this was the promised Messiah, the one anointed from God. And then in their limited understanding, they even tell Jesus about the resurrection as it's been presented to them by the women at the tomb. Now, it's worth noting here, according to the gospel writer Luke, earlier in the day, when the women tell the other disciples about the resurrection, the disciples think that the women are full of it. They think that the women are sharing an idle tale. So as they're talking with Jesus on that road to Emmaus, they tell him, some of those who were with us went to the tomb and they found it just as the women said, but they didn't see Jesus. So it's clear that the disciples still aren't sure what's going on. And here is Jesus' opportunity. After rebuking them for their foolishness and their slowness of heart, he begins to teach them, interpreting things about the Messiah that they know from their scriptures. They know this stuff. Now at this point, the narrative hits a little bump in the road because they're nearing the village. Jesus seems to be traveling on, but they ask him to stay. That's that strong hospitality ethic at work. So he goes into the home with them, and at the meal, he takes the bread, he blesses it, he breaks it, and he gives it to them. And they know this is Jesus. And then, just like that, he's gone. And these disciples are left with their questions. Now, with newfound enthusiasm, they return to Jerusalem to find the 11 disciples and their companions and give them the news, the Lord has risen indeed. And then they tell what happened on the road and how Jesus has been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. And I wonder if they ever ate bread again without thinking of this meal that they shared with Jesus. When I was growing up, my mom found a recipe for lemon honey cookies in the Little Rock newspaper. She cut it out. It's a tiny scrap of newspaper. I still have it after all these years. Almost every year of my life around Christmas time, Mom and I would pull out the recipe on a little scrap of paper. We'd pull out the flour sifter and all the ingredients, pull out the rolling pin and the cookie cutters and the baking sheets. We'd mix up the ingredients, and because we didn't worry about things like salmonella, we'd eat the dough. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Right. Every year we'd forget to make the dough ahead of time, so every year it would chill in the fridge overnight, right? Like we were supposed to do. Every year we'd forget to do that. So every year we'd wrap it and carefully stick it in the freezer for a while instead. It was our ritual of love and companionship. To this day, when I pull out that recipe on that little scrap of paper, and I pull out the same rolling pin and cookie cutters and flour sifter, and mix the ingredients. All I have to do is smell the lemon and the honey, and I participate again in the ritual of love and companionship that I shared with my mom all those years. It's different now, of course, but the love is still there. The sense of companionship has changed, of course, but whenever I make these cookies, I still feel a connectedness to my mom, to our years of baking, and to my own history. Now, what on earth do lemon honey cookies have to do with Jesus? Today's gospel story gives us the beginnings of our ritual of love and companionship that we share with each other each week. Luke tells us that Jesus took bread, he blessed and broke it and gave it to them. Does this pattern sound familiar to you at all? Does this sound like anything that we do here on a regular basis? This is the beginning of our own pattern of Holy Communion, taking something as simple as bread, blessing it, breaking it, and giving it out to anyone who is hungry for Jesus. And if we think that this is only about us in this room, we're wrong. We share this ritual of love and companionship with each other, but also with those first disciples and with disciples of Jesus all over the world today, and with many disciples of Jesus in between. So it's not only about us. For the past 2 days, Renee and Mel and Hattie and I attended our annual Synod Assembly in Plano. It's a gathering of hundreds of Lutherans from North Texas, North Louisiana, one congregation in Clovis, New Mexico, and one in Durant, Oklahoma. Bishop Gronberg invited many bishops and pastors from other Christian denominations to greet the assembly, and one was from the Roman Catholic Church. Father Williams was tasked with speaking about the Protestant Reformation from his Roman Catholic perspective, which he did beautifully, and in the light of recent agreements made between our own Lutheran church body and the Roman Catholic Church. We still have areas of disagreement, of course. And one of those, of course, is the role of ordained women in ministry. But we are working toward ever greater unity with our brothers and sisters in the Roman Catholic faith. At the end of Father Williams' speaking time, Bishop Gronberg opened up the floor for questions. And one of my colleagues lovingly asked Father Williams if he thought we would ever share Holy Communion officially together as Lutherans and Roman Catholics. His answer was hopeful, and so greatly based on a theology of love and companionship, for he said that it is in Holy Communion where we truly find our unity as Christians. At that meal in Emmaus 2,000 years ago, Jesus was made known to his disciples in the breaking of the bread. At our meal here in a few minutes, Jesus will be made known to us in the breaking of the bread. In this meal, we find love, we find companionship, and we find the Lord giving us hope and strength so that we can carry on, and giving us the very love of God so that we can share that love with others. The Lord has risen indeed. Amen. We are now going to sing a musical version of our gospel lesson, and it's number 374, and I invite you to